Hello everybody, it's Chaz in Omaha, here with another build guide for you. Today we have the Lightning Chakram Fulgurite Rogue. We can go ahead and start with just some general gameplay, which is kind of standard rogue stuff. You sync and shift to get your shadows, and then you throw your chakrams. You can sync strike between each shift generally if you have mana available, but for the most part you just kind of Omega Blast with this. You spam your, like if you were to run out of mana, let me just dump some mana here. You can get your mana back pretty fast by just spamming shurikens like this. For the Lethal Mirage version, if you do opt to play with that a little bit, I'll give you an example here. This one's a little bit touchier. Keep in mind that my Lethal Mirage right now is Dumpster Fire because it's not spec'd. So here's what you want to do. You want to start with Smoke Bomb, throw once, sync, shift, Lethal Mirage. So let me explain exactly why you want to do the Lethal Mirage combo in that exact order. You want to Smoke Bomb first so that it has time to generate hopefully 2 shadows. You want to throw your shurikens after you Smoke Bomb to get its flow combo in while also still not consuming a shadow. You want to sync next, because if you shift first, sync will end up consuming both of your shift buffs, and you really don't want that. So you have to do exactly Smoke Bomb, throw, sync, shift, lethal. As far as strengths go, both the trash DPS and boss DPS on this is very high. Like, you can see the numbers that I'm putting out, right? Like, some of the bosses, most of the bosses die very, very quickly. It's a lot of damage. It's also, like, really simple to play, right? You just sync, shift, throw, sync, throw, sync, shift, throw, right? It's really simple to play. Alright, for the weaknesses, you gotta aim your chakram. Like, if you sync, shift, and then accidentally throw like that, yeah, you just, like, wasted your whole thing, right? So you do have to aim, which is sort of difficult because you're shifting around, but you get used to it eventually and it's not that big of a deal. It's also a bit glassy. But as with most Blade Dancers, since you're moving most of the time, you just don't really get hit very much unless you're, I don't know, playing poorly. So you just kind of got to get good and don't get hit, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so now we can go ahead and go through the skills. We can start with Shuriken, which is the main skill that matters, right? This is a chakram version. I did try it with non-chakram, and it's just not good. It's cool because you don't have to aim, but its damage is not worth it. Don't do it. So anyways, for shurikens, I would go immediately to chakram as fast as you can, and then get the keen throw. Once you get these 2 points, you're just going to blast through the whole game. After that, you probably want to get Fan of Blades, and then after that, you can either go with Jagged Edges or Charged Steel, and which one is better kind of depends on your gear at the time. Like, if you have a lot of flat throwing, then this loses a lot of value, right? And this has a lot more value. And then your final points will be moving over into this Toxic Tips to get this multiplier plus this flip of a coin. Okay, next we can go ahead and go over Shift. I would recommend getting into the shadow thing as fast as you can, because the shadow thing really amplifies your overall clear speed and damage throughout the game. Then you do the standard thing where you get 3 points into here to get the invulnerability plus the elusive. Then I would go up into maxing Braskulas, and then at the very end I wouldn't do hypovolemia till the end, because this node doesn't actually really do anything until you have this node in Shuriken. Okay, next we could talk about Smoke Bomb. So for Smoke Bomb, it's just kind of a choice of offense or defense. I would just go into the shadows and duration right at the beginning because you can just blast through the game. But if you want more defense, feel free to go into the Dust Shroud stuff first. And as normal, I would suggest doing this stuff last because you just don't really need this till the end of the game. Okay, next we have Synch Strike. So Synch Strike serves kind of a dual purpose on this build, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, you get the shadows from it with shadow buffs, but you also get this Crimson Shroud buff, which in conjunction with the Shift Bleed makes it so that your Shuriken stack up ailments for this node really, really, really quickly. That being said, I would go ahead and go into the mana cost and the shadow things first. You can go into the Dark Allies node if you prefer that way of playing. I would say that numerically your damage could be higher with Dark Allies, but I find the gameplay to be far less smooth and enjoyable, so I don't use this. And then depending on where you're at with your Shuriken points, the value of Crimson Storm versus Art of the Blade is kind of up for grabs. This one stacks your debuffs faster, and this one obviously makes you regain your mana faster while you spam Shurikens between the sync shift combos. So that's kind of up for debate, and you can go whichever route you want. So last we have the first optional skill, which is Umbral Blades. This basically takes the place of Lethal Assault if you deem it to be not worth using like I have. Umbral Blades isn't really very important. It's just kind of like there because there's not really a better option. The Lethal Darkness Shadow Dagger things does do some amount of damage, but it's not really that important. And it also does do a little bit of freezing and chilling, which is pretty good to protect you from stray mobs. Other than that, it just doesn't really matter that much. I guess it does some armor shred too, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now next we can go over what Mirage would look like if you were to spec Lethal Mirage. The most important thing for Lethal Mirage is to go down through Ravaging into this Umbral Feast. This is what makes it do a lot of damage when you use it properly, by consuming all the shadows you've generated. This is sort of the reason why you want to do that really specific sequence of attacks that I mentioned earlier. And then you would want to just go into this Sundering Blows for an extra multiplier, once again making use of the Sync plus Shift Bleed application chance to stack this up. Then you go ahead and get the shadows from here because this haste thing's kind of useful, and then I would get these shadows at the end. Along with maxing this out, I think it's kind of a wash. You can pick whichever one you want. Now, if you do Lethal Mirage, I'm going to point out one thing that you want to do that's different. In the passive tree, you want this. This thing gives you a just 100% all the time crit thing with Lethal Mirage, and if you don't do this, then Lethal Mirage is even worse than it normally is. So you definitely want this only if you're doing the Lethal Mirage variant. Alright, next we can go ahead and talk about the gear a little bit. So, you don't actually need any of this gear to play the build. You can just play it this way no matter what. But without these gloves, your damage is going to be significantly lower. These gloves, I haven't really done the math, but I have a feeling that the gloves are more important than the weapons. So you really want to get these Liath Claws if you can. The crit multiplier here is by far the most important stat. The poison on throwing hit is nice for clearing trash to build up your ailments for your shurikens faster, but it's not really that important. And you just kind of want to try and get throwing damage in here, right? Like I have. Next item is the Fulgurite shards. So before you even put these on, which is not till level 71, you're already going to be blasting. So these are totally unnecessary, but they are quite a lot of damage for like empowered progression. You pretty much just want to get lightning or crit strike multiplier in these. I have a feeling that the math probably works out in favor of having crit strike multiplier in one and lightning percent in the other, but it probably is close enough where it doesn't really matter. Just try and get those two stats, yeah? There's one more unique that you don't really need to have, but it does make playing your character a lot better until you get this throwing leech blessing, and that's the Bleeding Heart. I would recommend wearing any version of Bleeding Heart that you happen to have all the way until you get the throwing damage leech as health blessing. As far as general gearing goes, you really want this thing that I have on my chest here on both of these if you can. The head also has an affix that I don't have, which is in the planner for crit per dagger wielding. That one is just about as strong as this Lightning Shuriken's one, so you could get either or and it would be about the same. For the relic, you really want this relic with a good implicit, because you're really gunning for 100% crit with your shurikens, and it's very difficult to do without having a good implicit roll on this relic. Frenzy on boots is also very, very powerful on this build because not only does it make you throw really fast for 3 seconds like I have here, but it also just gets your mana back really fast, so you can do a lot more sync shift without having to worry about your mana. So you kind of double dip on the value of Frenzy for this build. These idols here are very, very powerful. That's the affix I was talking about on the headpiece, the crit strike per dagger. You definitely want 2 of these if at all possible. And then this crit strike multiplier while dual wielding is obviously quite good. You could wear 2 of these if your resist allowed. And then you can just get some armor shred or resist or health on these. Okay, so now we can go ahead and go over the passives. Now I'm not really going to go in depth with the passives on this build because like every passive that you get in here is all, for the most part, very, very strong. But I will point out just a few things. This node right here, you want this to be maxed by the time you start using Synch Strike, because this will increase your quality of life and DPS dramatically. This critical precision node, I think you should max this out before you do the all-in thing. Because if you don't have enough crit strike chance, this all-in thing could actually lower your damage. So don't do the all-in too hastily thinking that, ooh, 75% crit multi is excellent. But if your crit percent's bad, this doesn't really help you, right? This node would be kind of confusing to people. Why do you want poison chance with 2 daggers? Well, my thought is that you get 60% to poison here. You get approximately 100% chance to poison here, and then you get 40% here, which puts you right about at 200%, which would give you 2 poisons towards this multiplier per Shuriken thrown. So I went ahead and put 3 here. You don't really need to. You can put these 3 points somewhere else, like armor shred, if you don't think it's worth it. You do want to make sure and not forget this. This dodge rating debuff is quite good when you start doing the monoliths, particularly in empowered, so that when you get the dodge affix on enemies, it's less impactful for you. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the passives. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you a few gameplay clips so you can see what it's like. Thanks everybody, have a good one. Alright, can we kill Liath before she teleports? That's the question. Giant trampolines are awesome. And I was really good at gymnastics things when I was a kid. So I could do all sorts of wacky crap on that trampoline. Kind of feeds into what I was saying before, where I was like in really good shape my whole life until recently, right? That was part of the reason, probably, because I liked stuff like gymnastics. Arguably one of the hardest things for a human to do, right? Gymnastics and ballet. Have you guys ever gone to one of those places where like the walls are trampolines and the floors are like giant chains of trampolines? I've heard about them. I have never been to one. I think I would kill myself now. My knees would probably hate me.
Easy. Too easy.
Oh. Oh, what shard is that? An Umbral Visage with green. That might be good. That might be really good. I don't know what green it is, though. Nope. It's not good. Not for this character. I mean, that's probably a good stand-in helm for Shadow Daggers, right? It was the right base. It was the crit multi-base. Oh, wait, we use the Bone Clamor, don't we? Never mind. Never mind, it's useless. We just get the shards. is useless. We need Bone Clamor. It's almost max tier 7. Wow. Holy shit. That is a banging wand right there. Depends if locks are dot based. Yeah. I guess I'm just making the assumption that they will have some dot stuff with curses, right? They might not, though. Should be perfect. It's all speculative, too, right? We're just speculating. I'm just speculating that there's got to be some builds that'll be good with that curse base, right? There's got to be. Right? Right? What is that? That's Groundhog Day. That guy. The Ned Ryerson. I added pull-ups and leg curls. Okay, so top one. Let's see, if we kill the top one, where does it spawn? The bottom left. So the top one is the bottom left one. We kill the bottom left one, where does it spawn? Top left? I'm gonna leave that middle one there the whole time if I can. Oh, it died already. Son of a monkey. It died from my Umbral blades. F. Now I've lost track. Now I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. I'm over it. You can have 3 up at a time later, though, right? I had 3 just now. Ouch. Dude! He just ignored that thing. I wonder if the tentacle one-shot it. It might have. The 2 animes, yep. That is what I mean.